What if checking into a motel was the last thing you ever did? Rain hammered against a lonely roadside motel. The old neon sign outside flickered red and blue through the storm. 5R Motel. A violent crack of thunder shook the building. Then a voice, low and distorted. Once you check in, nobody leaves. The rain fell heavily outside Officer Muwon's office. Files and paperwork covered his desk, most of them old unsolved cases nobody cared about anymore. He rubbed his eyes and reached into a dusty archive box labeled Missing Persons. One file immediately caught his attention. May 2007. Desmond Okezie, last seen at 5R Motel. Muwon leaned back in his chair and opened the report. According to the statement attached, Desmond had worked late that night and decided he was too tired to drive home that night. A co-worker claimed he checked into a nearby motel to spend the night, but he was never seen again. Muwon frowned. That's it? The motel had been searched twice back then, and investigators found absolutely nothing unusual. A man walks into a motel and vanishes into thin air. Muwon hated cases like that. Over the next few days, he reopened interviews from the original investigation. One former co-worker sat nervously across from him inside a small restaurant. We worked overtime together that night, the man said. I left him at the office around 11. That's the last time I saw him. Another neighbor had a completely different theory. Desmond was under pressure, the woman said quickly. New baby, overdue bills. It's the stress that got to him. That's why he ran away. Men do that all the time. Then came an old street vendor who claimed he witnessed Desmond entering the motel that night. The old man pointed a shaky finger at Muwon. I told the police this years ago, but nobody listened to me. What exactly did you see? He wore a blue shirt. I remember because of the rain. He ran from his car into the motel lobby. Did he come back out? The old man became quiet. After a long pause, he shook his head slowly. No, at least not that night. Every lead ended in another dead end. Still, something about the case kept pulling at Muwon. So he visited Desmond's former workplace. The office manager looked uncomfortable the moment Muwon mentioned the old case. Good afternoon, Muwon said calmly. I'm reopening the disappearance of one of your former employees. The manager's face changed instantly. Please tell me this isn't about Desmond Okezie. Muwon narrowed his eyes. I never mentioned his name. The manager adjusted his glasses with trembling fingers. There's only one employee who ever disappeared from this company. Then maybe you can help me. The man looked towards the office windows as the clouds gathered outside. Officer, let this case go. Why? The manager lowered his voice, as if he was scared someone would listen in. The investigator before you became obsessed with that motel. Muwon stayed silent. They say whatever he saw there destroyed him. He stopped talking completely. Now he just sits outside his house every day staring into the distance. Muwon leaned forward. And you believe that? I believe some places should be left alone. Do you have contact information for Desmond's family? The manager hesitated. You're really going through with this. Muwon slid a pen and sticky note across the desk. The address. The manager slowly wrote it down before handing it over. He looked Muwon directly in the eyes. I pray you know what you're doing. Desmond's father lived alone in an aging bungalow at the edge of town. Family photographs covered the walls. One picture showed Desmond holding a newborn child. He was happy, the old man said quietly. That's why I never believed he abandoned his family. Muwon nodded. I was told a friend dropped him at the motel. Yes. Police questioned him for weeks. Nothing linked him to the disappearance. Where is he now? He left Nigeria shortly after the investigation ended. The old man sighed heavily before continuing. I even hired a private investigator back then. Muwon looked up. What happened? The father laughed bitterly. The man came back different. He wouldn't say what he found. Nothing. He made a refund and was never seen again. How can I reach this PI? Muwon asked. After a long silence, he handed Muwon a faded business card. I hear he's still alive. But whatever he saw at that motel broke him. The private investigator's house looked abandoned. Wild weeds swallowed the compound. Rusted buckets and broken furniture littered the yard. Paint peeled off the walls in long, dead strips. Muwon climbed over the side fence after nobody answered the gate. At first, he thought the house was empty. Then he heard the creaking. An old wooden chair rocked slowly on the front porch. The private investigator sat in it, motionless. His skin looked pale and stretched tightly against his bones. His beard hung unevenly down his chest. Yet that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was his eyes. He stared straight ahead without blinking. What do you want? The man asked weakly. I'm investigating Desmond Okezie's disappearance. The old man gave a dry laugh. Of course you are. You went looking for him years ago. The chair continued rocking slowly. Do yourself a favor, officer. Walk away. What did you see inside that motel? The man finally spoke again, but softer this time. Once you check in, nobody leaves. A cold breeze moved through the porch. Nobody leaves room 13. Muwon waited for more, but nothing else came from the man. Room 13? Is the motel complicit in his disappearance? The chair kept rocking. The PI stayed silent. That night, Muwon drove to the motel. The building stood alone beside the empty highway like a corpse nobody buried. The sign outside barely hung together. 5R Motel. Most of the letters no longer worked. The front gate had been chain shut years ago. Muwon stared at the entrance from inside his car while rain rolled down the windshield. Every bone in his body told him to leave. Instead, he grabbed bolt cutters from the trunk and went ahead. The chain snapped loudly. The motel door groaned open with a long, painful creak. The inside smelled like mold, dust, and wet wood. Rats scattered across the hallway floor. How long has this place been empty? He muttered. His flashlight cut through the darkness as he moved deeper inside. Near the back hallway, he found a door labeled Records. Inside were stacks of old boxes arranged by year. Muwon quickly found 2007, then May. He flipped through guest records carefully, but the Famsang Desmond Okezie. He checked again. Still nothing. That makes no sense. Everybody claimed Desmond checked into this motel. So why was there no record of him? Suddenly, the wind outside grew louder. Then came the whistling. Soft at first, it felt human. Muwon froze. Hello? The whistling continued somewhere deeper in the building. Police! Whoever's there, come out now! No answer, only the whistling. He stepped back into the hallway and stopped cold. The corridor looked wrong, far too long. The farther he stared, the more it seemed to stretch endlessly into darkness. Sweat formed across his forehead. The whistling continued upstairs now. Without realizing, he began following it. The wooden staircase groaned beneath every step. At the top floor, the hallway stood completely silent. Rooms lined on both sides. As Muwon walked forward, his footsteps echoed unnaturally loud. Then he stopped moving, but the footsteps continued. Behind him, it was slow, heavy, coming closer. Muwon spun around, but nobody was there. Then a woman's voice whispered beside his ear in a flirtatious manner. "Why don't you stay the night, officer?" Muwon stumbled backward, but again, the hallway was empty. "It's in your head. Focus," he whispered to himself. Then you saw it. Room 13. The door sat slightly open. As they approached, the door slowly creaked wider on its own. Muwon raised his flashlight and stepped inside. Slam! The door shut violently behind him. A jukebox in the corner suddenly crackled to life. A little girl's voice began singing. Her voice trembled like it had been crying. The song looped again and again. Each time her voice grew deeper, almost animal-like. Then the bathroom door burst open as the girl in the jukebox said, "Star, one's time." Muwon instantly pulled his gun. "Who's there?" A tiny voice answered from inside. "Officer, I'm scared." He froze. "I can't find my mummy." Water dripped slowly somewhere inside the bathroom. Drip, drip, drip. Muwon 7 closer carefully. The little voice whispered again. "I just want someone to play with. Will you play with me?" He stepped covered of water now. Then he say, "Passports, driver's licenses, voter cards." Dozens of them scattered across the wet tiles. Different names, different faces, all missing people. His breathing became shaky. Then something moved inside the bathtub. A little girl slowly sat upright from the dark water. Her head tilted unnaturally. Her smile stretched far wider than any human smile should. Before Muwon could react, she grabbed his wrist with freezing cold hands. "Gotcha!" Everything went black. The next morning, Muwon woke violently in his own bed. He gasped for air and looked around in confusion. Sunlight came through the curtains. He was in his apartment. It was a dream. Then pain shot through his arm. He looked down. A burned handprint was marked deep into his wrist. Muwon's breathing stopped. He turned, and beside his bed sat a pile of soaked passports and identification cards. The same ones from room 13. He stared at them in horror. So it was real. To this day, Officer Muwon still doesn't know what happened inside that motel. He never found Desmond Okezie. He never found the others. And he still has no idea how he escaped room 13. But sometimes, late at night, during heavy rain, he swears he hears whistling outside his apartment window. And every time he hears it, he wonders the same thing. How many people have checked into room 13? And how were they allowed to leave?